Hello, hope you're doing well. I was just in the mood for a little chat and I figured, what better place to do it than here? Recently, I've started the seemingly impossible task of not scrolling first thing in the morning. I don't know that there's anything inherently wrong with it or if I actually feel any different throughout the day, but there's just something that I don't enjoy about the thought of doing it. Like the act of doing it feels good and fine, but I just don't like the thought of that being me and that being what I'm doing the first thing when I wake up. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to start today, and boom. I've had moderate success. I'd say maybe 60, 70% of the time I'm able to just get up and start a little morning routine going. So just getting up, brushing my teeth, getting the coffee going, having a little meditation, coming back, playing some piano, and all of that ends up taking about the same amount of time as the amount of time I would spend scrolling first thing in the morning. I like the idea of doing that better, and I think I feel better. Like in the moment, it's probably or almost certainly less fun than just scrolling infinitely. But I think I like the me that's doing the morning routine much better than the me who is. And I feel as though I'm starting to have a bit of a contentious relationship with not just vertical video, but just how algorithms I don't know, interact with me and in my life. They have been very useful and fun and cool in my life. I've learned a lot of things that I otherwise wouldn't have, or learned things about myself that I wouldn't have. Like 3 or 4 years ago, I would have never known that I'd be into the idea of urban planning and kind of what goes into, I don't know, shaping human behavior on a sort of macro scale. But thanks to vertical video and algorithms, I've found out that actually this is something that I'm very interested in. I think it's a lot of fun to learn about, and it makes me want a different environment for myself and for the people around me. And of course, there are the not so fun aspects of it, and not even the ones that make the headlines. But I think the thing that's been on my mind the most is that the way that I feel like I'm being conditioned to consume media is taking the agency and my taste and curation away from me and putting it into the hands of tech people like thousands of miles away from me. I started thinking about that more and more because I read this article recently by Liz Perry called The Ghost in the Machine, which is about a lot of things, but it is primarily about Spotify. One of the big discoveries was that Spotify was contracting out Muzak, basically, so they were hiring composers and musicians to play like dumbed down versions of jazz songs or like maybe original compositions that sound super close to existing compositions and making a ton of those. They would own that intellectual property and they would just pump all of their ambient or background playlists with that music. So like the cafe jazz and deep focus and relaxation and all those kinds of playlists, they'd replace the music that's on there with, existing artists and things, and they would put all of this music that they own onto that so that they wouldn't have to pay artists out and they could kind of keep more of that revenue for themselves, which I get. I mean, that's not me placing a value judgment on it. I understand it's capitalism. Everyone's trying to make as much money as they possibly can, and it's unclear to me even now whether they are making any money or if they are still constantly in the red and surviving off of investment and venture capital and all that kind of money. Anyhow, there was a quote in the article that just, like, it's another one of those things that it's not inherently wrong, it just doesn't feel great. And it was, if the metrics went up, then let's just keep replacing more and more, because if the user doesn't notice, then it's fine. And again, that's in reference to replacing an existing jazz musician, whether that's Miles Davis or someone, more recent, replacing all of their music with this sort of bland milquetoast thing that they've created that is perfectly ignorable, perfectly in the background. I feel like ties very closely with that article that came out about Netflix, how all of their executives were saying, oh, this show is not second screen enough. We need to make it more second screen. We need to dumb it all down so that people can understand what's happening in the show without ever looking at it. And we'll have all the characters just say what they're doing and say what they're thinking. So that people don't have to look up from their screens and know what's happening. And I'm doing my best not to judge or be snobby, although I am starting to wonder if maybe some amount of snobbery or gatekeeping should be brought back to a degree. That is something I've not really worked out for myself, but I'm just sort of accepting it as a sign of the times. And one person can't change the world, but I had started thinking more and more to myself that maybe it's a good idea that I curate the things that I watch and listen to more and more to take some amount of control or agency back and not leave it up to robots or tech dudes in San Francisco to curate my taste for me. Because as a music maker, I very much enjoy music and there's always a song that I want to listen to, so I've almost never used a algorithmic playlist for Spotify or anything else like that. Because when I sit down to listen to music, I know what I want to listen to, so I'll choose it. And the times that I have used an algorithmic playlist for I don't know, discovery, or just if I really, really didn't want to think about what I was going to listen to, the experience has been fine. And I think that really encompasses that sort of, I don't know, algorithmic feed of media, because every time I would use those functions, I couldn't tell whether people were intentionally making music that sounded like other music so that it could get playlisted, and that's just kind of what was happening, or if the machine was assuming that because I hadn't hit skip on these songs that I liked that, and so it was just pulling together all of these songs that sounded nearly identical in tempo and timbre and all these things. But at the end of the experience, I just kind of felt like, not gross, but just I didn't feel good after it, and I don't know what it is. But if I decided I'm gonna listen to Orange Rhyming Dictionary by Jets to Brazil, then I'm building a relationship with that album, and afterwards I don't know, I feel differently, even though I'm just listening to music, and maybe this is like a placebo thing, but I feel better. I don't know. Maybe it's that sense of control and I'm being a control freak. But I can't say I do the same for visual media. I'm definitely a sucker and very guilty of just scrolling through Netflix or Crunchyroll or YouTube or whatever, and just sort of letting the platform show me an array of things and saying, yeah, you can choose, but you choose from this, versus me seeking something out intentionally and using the actual search bar and saying, I want to watch this. And I start to wonder if there's like some kind of decision fatigue that starts happening that makes me choose the easiest thing to watch, because after scrolling for 10 minutes or 15 minutes and not even watching anything, just looking for something, I'm tired, and I don't know. I don't want to challenge myself after that point. So then I'll pick something that's really easy or really familiar. Even though I know that if I pick something new and maybe a little bit challenging, I'll feel better for it afterwards. Like, wow, I'm really glad I watched that, versus watching, Parks and Rec for the 90th time. As much as I love that show, it's not a great sign if I can quote the show back as it's happening. And then the latest ingredient in this whole hodgepodge of, I don't know, ideas is, the existence of and sort of, I don't know, increasing interest in AI. I've got my own thoughts and feelings about it, although I think that is a discussion for another time that I probably still need to meditate on, because it just, I don't know, it's its own beast. Tangent, although I promise it intersects with what I'm talking about. But for my day job, I've worked in a lot of different classrooms in all age ranges. So elementary, middle school, high school, been in a lot of classrooms. And I've noticed more and more that teachers will put on sort of background, like chill vibes music if the kids are having whatever unstructured free time, or if they need to do, I don't know, like stuff on their Chromebooks. A lot of teachers put on some music. But in the past year, maybe year and a half, I've noticed teachers will intentionally choose AI generated bossa nova or whatever, and I don't know that they know that that's what they are choosing. I think it's just whatever is the easiest thing. If you put in like chill cafe music, and then that's what pops up first, but it's like AI generated art set to AI generated music, and it honestly sucks. It is so like bland and inoffensive that in a way it comes back around to being abrasive, at least for me. And regardless of what the genre is called, whether it is jazz or bossa nova or whatever else, it's all the same thing. I think because I care deeply about music, I cannot help but think, why not just choose a jazz album to listen to if you want to just have background jazz music? Like, you could just put on a Stan Getz album. It feels connected to the fact that we, at least in the United States, just continually cut arts funding and humanities funding and just like STEM, only STEM. And so you get like zero interest in art, zero interest in other people, because truly, like, that just AI slop, just all together, it sucks. And I don't think it's a big deal. It's not like a huge make or break thing, but I can't help but feel like maybe we can expose kids to something that is not made by robots, something that is made by people who cared about what they were doing, because there's so much music out there. You could choose literally anything. People love making music or art so much that they do it for free. They're willing to pay to do it. And yet you're choosing robots that have just stolen and scraped the internet to, I don't know, re-synthesize it into something that sucks. But yeah, trying not to make this about AI, the point that I think I'm trying to make, I think it is a worthwhile endeavor and is a worthwhile effort to take the power back and to regain control of curation and regain control of what you are putting into your eyeballs and into your ear holes by actively seeking out what you might like instead of just waiting for it to come to you. It's more effort, but I feel like the natural conclusion of just sitting back and letting everything come to you is that you are ceding control to tech bros. or whatever powers that be. Even though marketing and propaganda and whatever it's the water that we swim in, at least trying a little bit, I think, is worth it.